because it's gonna get confusing. Luckily, I should have one from someone or another. There we go. And his name is so large, it barely fits. There we go. In the top left on Parasite, it is the blue Zerg Zanster. In the bottom right, as the red Terran, it's Radko. But we know him as Bleucheese. So I'll be saying Bleucheese until he gives a formal declaration that he's changing his name to Radko. In which case, he's gonna get a lot of people talking about Fallout, I think, about his name. That's the first thing I thought of. This is the... Oh, lordy. I mean, it's the round 3 of a tournament, but what does that really say? So, okay, let's do this. Round 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. This is the round of 32. They need to make it to the round of 4 to qualify, or the bottom round of 4 to qualify. You savvy? You get it? You Gucci? Top 8, which means top 4, bottom 4. Also means that if you make it to the top 8 and you lose in the qualifying match, you're still pretty damn close to qualifying to the losers bracket, but it's a tale as old as time. People making it through the losers bracket from the get-go, and they rally their mental strength and stuff and whatever, and then they actually make it through the losers bracket. And the guy who thinks, you know what, I'm still good. I got, like, you know, a whole best of 3 to play out, and I think I'm gonna do well because I made it this far in a winner's bracket. It should be a shoo-in for the losers bracket, right? And then they don't. They get slapped. It happens a lot. So as nice as it is, you are probably gonna be waiting at least an hour, if not 2 hours, for your other opponents to catch up to you, and then, well, you might still end up losing anyways. So that's a big old bummer. If that happens. Seen already in the past qualifiers. The WCS qualifiers are almost all finished, guys. They almost are. This is the 3rd European qualifier, so the last one. Tonight's American qualifier is the 2nd non-China, non-Taiwan, I guess, qualifier for that region. Oh, it's so weird, guys. Like, technically, the WCS Americas had 4 different qualifiers, but 2 of them probably weren't too public because they were so weirdly timed. As well as the Taiwanese server, which some people, like, a lot of people generally have problems connecting to. So, I think Tempo might have been casting at Wardy as well, but if you had watched it, you either really love StarCraft or you just coincidentally were up at that time. So, there are already a lot of people entered into America, but then we have another one for the big old conglomerate that is, you know, Australia, C, and even, like, Japan and stuff. Actually, no, I think the Taiwanese one was actually called, like, the Asian server or something like that. But South America, right? The stuff that used to be Copa America is now in that qualifier and so on. But apparently a lot of the Australians did well in the one that happened, ooh, I want to say Thursday night, Friday morning, I think it was. So that's cool to see. Anyways. A nice little backstory of the tournament. Bought me enough time to talk about the Hellion Banshee build on the way. So Bleucheese not doing anything too weird, but it is Parasite, and we should expect him to go into mech and perhaps even Cyclone mech. And by 2 word I meant, like, no battle cruisers. But it seems like the Terrans are saving their battle cruiser builds for let's see here, Automaton and I can't remember the other one that they do it on. I just can't remember the name. I can remember what it looks like, but I can't remember the name right now. Anyways. Thank you, Anadite, for the Twitch Prime sub, as well as Entity4D54, the Twitch Prime sub. Thanks to the keyboard, it's awesome. Wow, that got to you really fast. You're welcome. CR is Croatia. Oh. Not gonna lie, there are a lot of European countries that I just don't remember. They're not nearly as talked about as other European countries, so it's like asking Europeans to remember that Kansas exists. I mean, who does that? So this turned into a Hellbat attack. The army finished up in the nick of time for all of these Hellbats turn into Hellbats. Zanster did not have a lot of cubes turned off to the right side, so there was really no advance warning. Nor do I believe he had a sight on the armory. So this was a pretty big surprise, yet he still had the ability to make Banelings, did so immediately. And his queens are able to buy time as well. Spore Crawler is not going to be able to protect both the mineral line and the queens here, but it's just enough that, you know, you can maneuver around. You can wait for that cloak to finish off if things are getting really testy. But even if the Banshee got one queen, ultimately that Hellbat push was not worth it. It just, it didn't go so well. And maybe something else tipped Zanster off. I guess he did have an Overlord, so when I said there was the latest time to see it, I was wrong. Might have been Creep Spread, but there was an Overlord, so it still was not scouted as far as the armor went down, or as far as the build really showed, I believe. But he sees the engineering bay, and with it being right in the front like that is really nice, because Parasite truly is the map for mech players. For bio players to go mech even, right? So he sees that, would have been a later gas, I believe, for, you know, if it was mech, would have been a lot earlier. And is now even going to see, well, that might be a mistake. This should be a mistake. I'd be really surprised if it wasn't a mistake. I've made this mistake. Okay, we'll pay attention to that, I guess. He sees it when he lifts his command center. What's going on here? You really need factory production. The age of doing just nothing but bio has passed, basically, since Marine King Prime has gone from the StarCraft 2 world. If you go into mass bio, once the Zerg player figures out what you're doing, they really do just overwhelm with Lings and Banelings. And without Splash, even when you're maxed out, as long as they're not taking absolutely terrible trades on top of your Marauders, it still works out. But I guess Bleucheese is doing stuff that I just haven't seen before. That factory being lifted is intentional. He's going not just for a very fast 4th base, but also a very fast 5th base. So his plan might be to play Parasite almost like a mech player would, like a tank mech player, right? Which is very defensive with only a couple of drops here and there, which, you know, as okay as Cyclones have looked in doing that, really drops are going to always be better at that harassment potential, right? But yeah, behind those drops, just, you know, defend, 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 and then you eventually get to a strong army, and we might even see him really accelerate towards the supreme late game of TVZ, where he also preps, you know, Liberators and Ghosts, not just a big bio ball of well-upgraded Marines and Marauders. So I still, with that style, I still would love to see the tanks, like the factory used to be just at least like 3 tanks, 4 tanks, something like that, to kind of cover your butt against what is eventually going to be overwhelming amounts of Lings and Banelings that are attacking from multiple directions. A couple of tanks have really helped out when we saw that style be rather popular. This is kind of like something that was occurring when Bjorn was not quite out of it yet. Obviously, he made his comeback and he was like really good in all departments, but a couple months prior to that, so let's say about a year ago. It's a total guess, by the way, but let's say about a year ago, Bjorn had perfected the whole like mass Raven, totally defensive Terran thing, and Zerg players are getting really mad, and then the Raven was changed, and we all know how it looks nowadays. But it kind of is the feeling, but in that Bleucheese is going to do that. But again, without a factory, that seems very difficult to do. Thank you, Napkins86 for a Twitch Prime sub. I got these Banshees still alive and actually finding places to do damage. One will die. Yeah, but nine drones, not too shabby. Brings the mutas back too. And by the way, Zanster did go for mutas. They just haven't really done a whole lot. That will help deter some drops in the future, because if it wasn't mutas, if it was just Hydras or hell, even like a fast Hive build, you do inevitably have trouble with drops as long as the Terran's kind of on that pro level. And Bleucheese really is. He's very close to it. That is a pretty big drop. It's also a very risky one, but Zanster's army is on the other side of the map, and Bleucheese knows this. You know, the mutas are here chasing down a medevac, so that does open up opportunities everywhere else. And I mean, good moves here. To the left side, a lot of drones going down. To the right side, drones going down. But we also do have Ling run by, so a bit of tip for that. And it does look to be going so far in Zanster's favor, as Zanster didn't just simply pull back his entire army to deal with this. He actually did section off Lings to continue with what he was hoping to be a strong counter, but is now just kind of, you know, into a run-by territory. But this run-by does a lot of damage. Also gets, I believe, some sight on that additional base. You know what? Hold on here. Maybe not. No, I did see the additional base, although it hasn't seen this one, funnily enough. So, if it had seen that damn it, Bleucheese is already on 5 bases, Zanster might have a better read on how the pacing of the game would go. Because right now he's probably a little, like, still a little like, okay, hold on here. Like, you're not gonna do a main push because I killed your factory minutes ago. Okay, you are just kind of doing a bunch of drops. Like, what exactly is going on here? But as he figures it out, and as he adapts to what is not exactly a normal TDZ, but is kind of similar to some other metas we've had, then we should see Zanster, I think, play a little more defensive, maybe with the mutas specifically, and then just always set up run buys. Because certainly what Bleucheese is missing here, besides a factory, which he also needs to produce more starports if he wants to do that, he's also missing an armory now, which he needs that too. Uh-oh. I guess that got killed with the Ling run by. So that's why he's building the factory. I was bringing up the fact that Zanster is going to abuse, you know, the lack of splash damage, but then I was like, hold on here, no upgrades, uh-oh. So the upgrades are sold out at 2-2, which, you know, in TVZ, that's to be expected that the Terran player would eventually get a 3-3 upgrade lead, even if it was only by like 30 seconds, right? The third player hadn't taken any damage, and they're just really macroing as well. But now it could be even more, perhaps. Depends on how fast Bleucheese recognizes that his factory's done and that he could be building an armory. Okay, there he goes. But he's also dealing with this mutaflock, and the mutaflock really has gotten very large, so I guess I said maybe he'll be more defensive with his mutas, but it's kind of like it's an either or, isn't it? You know, you can either be defensive with your mutas to clean stuff up, because 19 mutas will clean even, like, Marines dropped out of medevacs pretty well, or you keep your Lings back at home, right? Both can do the attack and the defense, but Zanster does end up bringing a large portion of the army over here. There are 2 medevacs drawing back some Lings there, and Zanster seems to have a handle on what Bleucheese is doing. And, you know, I hate to, like, harp on it, but I do feel like the lack of defensive factory production is really what's ruining Bleucheese's day. Obviously, he's not exactly been dealing with the run buys, like, perfectly with the units he's got as well, but GG. And his drops are kind of those, well, are they really that effective? Even if they look like they got a lot of drones, like, are they really truly effective? We could say all these things, but I look at the factory production and I'm like, nah, I think you need it. I do. I think you do. So he might have been hoping that Zanster was going to go into Hydras, which probably would have given him a lot more flexibility. The drops would have been saved more often, done more damage perhaps, and then he would have been able to react faster to Baneling Hydra, which attacks in a clump, whereas mutas go off on their own and do stuff. Yeah, that's certainly possible, but very odd style of play from Bleucheese, and I was on board with the idea of it being super defensive on Parasite, but I don't think it was well defended, you know? And then if you can get 5 bases up and you have a solid defense, you can almost waste drops. We've certainly seen that happen before. It just was like, I don't know. Zanster had a handle on it. TLDR. It's all good. Clem lost 1-2 to Spazzo. Uh-oh. I thought for sure that Clem was going to make it through today. With so many other players having already made it through, ones that really would have taken him out. But I guess I was wrong. People who... oh, good guy's answer. Remakes with Game Heart. People who... Wait, where was I going with that? Oh, who I didn't think were going to beat him yesterday as well. He was someone I thought he was going to defeat. And then today, so... He did end up making his way to, I want to say, close to qualifying. That's why I have Wikipedia still up. Hold on here. He did. Yeah, he almost qualified yesterday to the loser's bracket after being dropped down pretty early on. Again, for what I would have expected of him. He didn't even make it to the round of 32. Yeah. No, he did. Okay, so he actually lost to Bleucheese. Topical. He lost in the round of 8, 16, 32. He lost in the round of 32. Blah. And had to climb his way to only be defeated to Drogo. So, hope is not lost, but especially if that was a Protoss player, I don't know. Well, in general, losing at that stage shouldn't feel very good for someone who, you know, probably is hoping still to make it through the winner's bracket. But then on top of that, if he's like any other Terrans in the world, he's gonna have a little bit of a complaint to make if that was Protoss. Anyways. Alright, it's game number 2. On top right, as the blue Zerg, we do have Psystorm's Zanster. In the bottom left, yeah, he's still in the bottom. As the red Terran, it is Bleucheese. Showing us a style we haven't really seen before. The factory being thrown away is just something we don't see, and I mean, I hate to use that as an example, but I think that did somewhat highlight why we don't see it. There were, you know, I wasn't quite constantly watching, oh, guess first, how much supply Bleucheese had, so it's possible that he just simply would have been unable to defend, you know, one of those counter attacks, run-bys, whatever we call it. Even if he did have some Widow Mines or tanks, but my gut says that with Bleucheese being, you know, decent player, right? He's got good macro and good micro, that even if he was down 20 or 30 supply, defensively, if he had 4 tanks, or he had 8 Widow Mines, because you're not usually using your factory units when you do all those drops. I guess Widow Mines maybe, yeah, but not the tanks. That he would have been able to defend, and there's still a game to play. And that he, you know, would have also had some way to deal with the mutas a little bit better, because just to finish, like, wrap up that last game, one thing that was also scary, not just Zanster hitting the economy and still expanding and whatnot and going up to Hive, was that his muta count was getting another upgrade and could have gone easily up to 25 or 30 after, you know, dealing with the drops. You really do have that time to build up, and you could go into a lot of mutas, and literally the only thing that deals with that many mutas, upgraded or not, is Widow Mines. You need to have them spread around and stop them from just entering into your production and killing it all. No amount of missile turrets will help, and even the best micros with a Thor drop will not quite work, especially with the new Thor. So there was a lot of things to be scared of in that game. And eventually Bleucheese, well, you know, just tapped out. So it's Cerulean Fall, which is like almost the opposite. Not the smallest map, I don't believe you have, but, you know, obviously smaller than Parasite. Luckily for Bleucheese, or rather maybe a little... Well, actually, you know what? Zanster might not care about this. So Zanster did try and avoid the Reaper, but now he can just say, oh no, you found my 6 lings that were trying to get a, you know, sneaky kill on your command center, because they certainly can get a cancel. But actually, what it is more lings with speed almost finishing up, and that should be something that Bleucheese is thinking of. Like, oh shit, like if this is following up into speed lings, or hell, even roaches, right? Different build, then I could be in trouble. But as much as you think about it, there's really not much you can do about it. You are still waiting for your factory to finish and reactor to finish, and you just hope that the Reaper takes out as many lings as possible before speed kicks in, and there we go. You could try and, yeah, you could try and pull the SCVs as well, which... nah, wouldn't have been a better choice. This actually just stings a lot. If there is only 6 lings left over, I think it might be worth pulling, but you don't know. It's highly likely Zanster is reinforcing with more lings, and that was exactly the case. So you didn't just like cancel the command center immediately. You waited, thought you could save it, waited some more, thought you could save it, and then you canceled it. This is kind of the worst case scenario. I guess disregarding a sloppy non-cancel. That should never happen. But this is not great. What Bleucheese has to do here really is, I mean, he could try and mix up his build a little, do something sneakier than just, for instance, a Hellion Banshee build, which isn't sneaky at this point. He could try and do another Hellbat attack, or he could try what he's doing now, do a Medevac Hellion drop, right? And that should be sneakier. The point is, he kind of just does what you would usually expect. There's no reaction, you know, that you're like, okay, well, I'm going to make 40 lings and say F you and Bailing Bust or something like that. There's not enough production for the Terran just to be like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna go all in. Doesn't really work well against Zerg. So you do what you gotta do, and in this case, it's played pretty normal with maybe a little bit more sneaky builds, harassment in mind. So even as silly as this looks, and this should turn into a Hellbat attack, even the Marines being dropped and killing an Overlord is something, right? Now Zanster goes into a Roach Warren here, and this is just something that, like, I mean, it could be mind games on mind games. It could be like, I know that he knows that I know that he knows he would go into the Hellbats, so I'm going to go with Roaches, but he might think that I'm going into Roaches, so he's not going to do the Hellbat attack. Like, who knows, right? But that is a good coverall for defense, if that's what Zanster wants to do. It's also potentially a strong follow-up all-in, but I'd say there's a chance of, like, an all-in with Queens being pulled is higher on Blue Shift. There we go. Swinging Fall is still quite a ways to try and drag your Queens across the map. And you are presuming they're going for Banshees. As, again, that kind of weird mind game thing where they both don't quite know what each other's going to do, but there's good, strong guesses. And defensively, Zanster's Roach Warren is a good, strong defensive choice that Bleucheese might be aware of. Hopefully he doesn't commit with his Hellbats too soon. And then Zanster's also probably aware that Banshees are on the way because, well, Bleucheese could be afraid of a Roach follow-up as his scouting is limited right now. What all it boils down to, though, is a lot of units coming in here for Bleucheese with the armory just about finished. But, you know, the Roaches aren't even out yet, which means he's going to transform his Hellbats and probably lose them. The Queens have to buy a little bit of time here with the help of the Lings. But here come the Roaches now, and the drones really shouldn't lose their lives to this. This will be a lot of chaos, though. You can be certain about that, as there's a lot of micro going down on both sides. The drones should be just maybe pulled away entirely. They're instead trying to kind of come along here with the Queens, and the Queens are going to lose their lives being tucked into the corner. They were goners once they ran out of creep spread, but the drones, I think, could have been saved. The Roaches actually coming in a little piecemeal here are going to get destroyed as well. The Banshee survived a lot longer than I thought it would. The Sport Crawler finally helps take it out, and this did more damage than I expected, a lot because it hit with such timing. The Roaches weren't quite out, the Queens weren't quite prepared for this, and this actually is effective. He even made another Banshee, taking another Banshee behind this, so these Queens with a low transfuse energy, no transfuse energy in fact, and low health are gonna go down here. So this lasted a long time. That was successful. That was exactly what Bleucheese was hoping for, getting some revenge there for that command center kill, cancel rather, and a little bit of then some. So 14 drones, a hell of a lot of Queens. I thought it was 5, but still 4, and a lot of Lings. It's a pretty decent trade there. Also, just a lot of time interrupted, where hopefully, right, Bleucheese thinks he's getting his macro done better than Zanster was, which could be true. Right now we do have Zanster at 45 workers to the 50 of Bleucheese, so at the very least Bleucheese's SCV macro is going fine. More of a question of does his production come down on time, and I guess maybe there is a little bit of delay here and there. He's banking just a little bit, but it looks to be rather good. He's still microing this Banshee to add on more damage. Zanster has an Overseer, but he was having those Queens, the Queen number be a bit of a problem. He needs the injects, but he also needs some out and about to take care of Banshees, as well as get the creep spread going. That is one thing that Zerg players usually depend on when they're being attacked, and they're like, oh shit, when they recover, and they say, okay, what do I have? It's usually creep spread. You know, the Hellbat attack isn't so focused on dealing creep tumor damage. Okay. Okay, so my second monitor just shut down, and there was the familiar beep of electricity going out, but the stream's still going. I don't mind if the stream goes down, but I don't want to interrupt the players here. There is some strong wind, but I didn't expect much of it, so pray for me, guys. Holy shit. Uh-oh. Well, now I'm just extremely nervous. I don't know how my computer is doing this, by the way. Like, I don't have one of those fancy things that kind of hold on to some power for you in case of emergencies like this, but praise be this computer, I guess. Okay then. So, follow-up action was well-timed. Try to get some double drops in, but Zanster is able to deflect it and is already up to 5 bases with all that beginning stuff in mind. This is actually a good recovery. But Bleucheese has really been able to just accelerate far past Zanster. And while Zanster tried to get his 5th base up, that is a no-go. 4th base at least is up and running, but maybe not for long. Zanster's going to try a run-by to disrupt. Even the micro here of Bleucheese, make him pause for a second on creep spread could be a big deal, but he's going to be blocked by a wall with tanks and a lot of reinforcements. And it looks like Zanster is just going to find himself out of luck, as he could maybe have maxed out, or, well, he would have gotten closer to maxing out if he hadn't gone for a Spire and a Hatchery. He also, you know, was trying to make those right calls. Like, maybe I can fit in a Hatchery as well as a Spire to help take care of these medevac drops, and that's not currently happening. In fact, the medevac drop takes out his 4th base, which he really needed to be up and running. This is a very clutch spot. The Ravagers run around and no Muta's out quite yet. The Spire's done, but can Zanster really afford to go for Mutas? No, Corruptor's actually interesting, but these will be able to just kind of hover over those Marines for longer than the Mutas will, and be able to snipe those medevacs. They'll be a bit slower responding to medevac drops, but they are a bit better in that straight-up fight. Thank you, Monster 14. Wow, for the 14 months. This is probably the last hurrah, but there's so many tanks here. Bleucheese really got into the groove once his 3rd CC was set up. GG. Zanster, unable to respond in time to that Hellbat attack, despite having the Roach Warren. Things got really, really chaotic. So, Zanster gets a bit of a revenge Hellbat attack there. I do love when I get to do the revenge Hellbat attack, but Zanster is one of those guys that you expect to make it through the bracket, even with some of the contenders of the European scene up against him, like Bleucheese. He got very close last qualifier to making it through. I'm gonna take a quick peek outside the window. Yeah, it's not like the wind's insane. There's not trees blowing all over the place, so hopefully that was a bit of a blip. Darn. Oops. I had to swap the nameplate. It was bound to happen. In the bottom right on Port Alexander is the Blue Zerg Zanster. In the top left is the Red Terran. It is Bleucheese. Playing on Radco today, though, for some reason. Alright, so Zanster actually got a pretty strong start last game, and if he had built the roaches faster or had seen the Hellions come out faster and had his queens in a concave, probably would have been good too. Basically, his roaches come out faster. He was trying to micro his queens and buy time, but those roaches seem to take forever when you're building them as the Hellbat attack comes. So not going to try and get another early start like that. Just going for that hatch gas pool. Bleucheese is on 2 Hellbat attacks in 2 games, so maybe a third one here. If you're good about macroing behind the Hellbat attack, and if it takes, like, any time whatsoever to clean up, and, you know, Banelings just don't simply destroy it in 2 seconds flat, they don't really interrupt the Terran player's macro that much. But that is kind of the trick to it. Like, they don't already have Banelings or Roaches already ready to go, and you do have decent macro behind it. That's the trick for all of us plebs. But, obviously, Bleucheese had some very good macro behind it. Besides that blip that I had mentioned, he very quickly was able to set down his reactors and get the ball rolling on the production. Had a lot of tanks to use, too. It was good stuff. He quickly jumped ahead of supply from Zanster's. And part of that was Zanster's attempt to get some... What ended up being unnecessary is a word to use, I suppose. Fifth Hatchery and Spire. But bit of this, bit of that. Point is... Bleucheese had a lot of damage, and had the macro to back it up. So Zanster now possibly being sent to the loser's bracket if things don't go his way this game. We had a Reaper into a single Marine here, riding on the Factory and Reactor, looking for any Overlords that are a little too bold, but luckily for Zanster, Port Alexander does have some nice little high ground areas. There's 1 or 2 maps that are really lacking, but I can't recall what they are right now. But obviously there's one here, which just Overlord could easily get to, and in fact, Zanster's just not going for a very quick scout. You know, this would have perhaps backfired, because he not just... 2 things happened that would have backfired if it was a 2-rack or 3-rack or whatever, and it's very possible Bleucheese is going to do that. But one is that the Overlord, the second Overlord, didn't stay at home to see an SCV or even try to really scout for 2-racks. I guess it did to the north. It kind of... I guess it did kind of scout for 2-racks, right? Like, where would 2-racks be on this map? Probably around here. Okay, alright, I take that back. But, yeah, if you don't send it, if you don't just keep it at home, and you happen to miss the location of the barracks, then you could be in trouble. But, yeah, and then he just sent it in a wide curve, so... If he hadn't sent it in a wide curve, and he had gone straight to the natural with one of these Overlords, that Marine does maybe pop it off. But it's also a Marine that can add into 2 Marines, and then it's 3 Marines, and it's 4 Marines, and hey, we have another Hellbat attack, because that's really all you're going to do. If you're bothering to add 1 Marine at a time here, I don't see many builds that don't do a Hellbat attack. You know, there were some builds back in the day that would literally have 6... I think the most you get was like 7, actually, if you're really good. Marines in a medevac, but... He goes for 2, and that does mean he can now stop an Overlord from scouting. So I guess that's what he was going for. No 3rd Marine here to indicate a drop. Plus, the Banshee had started instead of a medevac, so that's probably the bigger tell. For us, anyway. Zanster's still a bit in the dark, right? Hasn't seen much. Just assumed it was going to be a command center after the potential proxy was scouted. Is now going to try and get something done, but he runs right into the Marines are. Bleucheese didn't have to look to see that was happening. So he doesn't even get to see the tech lab added to the barracks. And while Bleucheese has gone for bio 2 out of 3 games, there's certainly nothing saying he has to do bio the 3rd game. But oh, look at this. He had everything set up except for the front with the Ling. And the Hellions did not quite one-shot it. So a bit unlucky there. And now the Ling knows that there's stim, that there's not going to be more Hellions on the way. And even saw, I think maybe he saw that there was an additional 2, which does put a strong, like, is this Hellbat in your mind when you see 8 instead of 6 Hellions. But in this game, it's not. It is just Hellions. Banshee's gonna help out with the DPS, and with so many Hellions, they can take on Queens, even with Transfuse. Zanster being quite aware of that, not willing to use his Ling's Banelings. In case they do turn into Hellbats, it'll be much easier, and then also, he doesn't want to lose them to what could be very good control of the Hellions. You know, this is not a situation where the Ling's coming in from behind to get the wraparound. He doesn't want to potentially get all of his units barbecued. And when we're talking about Terrans at this level, that's almost a guarantee, especially with what is very limited creep spread, actually. You know, only one creep tumor off to the side. So these Queens have a big job to do, but so far they're doing it. Squirclaw at the front's a really nice little touch there, too, to make sure the Banshees don't do any more damage than they should. The Reaper went off and did something, or was that targeted down? I guess it was targeted down. It's one of those rare opportunities where creep tumors are denied, because let's be real, if it's only 6 Hellions, generally creep tumors are allowed to get up and about because you can't take on the Queens. But with not only 8 Hellions, but also the 2 Banshees doing what they do, it's good stuff. Did he just kill his own Hellion? I think he did. I think he misclicked. His Hellion's getting very low. They can't transfuse each other. God forbid. So they finally gonna be pushed away, and Zanster can go for that 4th base, which it looks like he's been planning on taking over here for some time. Oh, there was a Banshee checking this one out. There's already a creep tumor where the hatchery would be, so. If Zanster wants to take that base, he's gonna have to send something to kill that. Usually drones, as he realizes what he did. Behind all that aggression... Oh, I also have 5th base, my bad. So instead of taking a macro hatchery... No, he also takes a macro hatchery. Okay, so there's a lot of expansions coming down. Alright then. So behind all that, Bleucheese has his 3rd CC. He's getting a wall up for his 3rd as well. With a bunker, which is a... It's a nice touch, but it's not like, you know, other Terrans, Korean Terrans don't know of this ability. I'm like, you know, bunkers at a 3rd? That's stupid. No, they know. It's just more of a... I guess they assume they can defend any Ling run-bys. It's kind of like, you know, while you, Masters League player, can put down 8 missile turrets kind of whenever you want, probably have a good game. 800 minerals is actually a big deal out of the very tip-top pros. I feel like it's kind of under those lines. But honestly, there's been a lot of Korean pro gamers that I could even say I wish they built a bunker at the 3rd base. Especially against particular Zergs who are very fond of run-bys, but anyways. Perhaps more important is the wall, which is really weird to set up here. I'm gonna drop over here is just keeping tabs on the 4th base. There's not a lot of creep spread over there yet, but the army, there's not a direct army fight on the way either. In fact, more of the army's coming over here, Widowmines included. Gonna clear up a lot of creep spread, maybe even grab an overseer. I think they were going for the queen. She had gotten very low. They get 1 queen, maybe could have gotten the 2nd one. The Lings were on top of things. Good split against the Widowmines, clean them up. And the creep tumors did not go down for this, so this is, I think, overall a successful defense. Zanster lost 1 queen, that sucks, but he's got a lot of creep spread now to help him out. And this is the keep my creep spread alive portion of TVZ. I guess for Terrans, it's the destroy creep spread if I can portion, right? Depends on where you're looking at. Whose eyes you're looking through. 2-2 is already on the way for Bleucheese, where Zanster gets stalled out in 1-1. I mean, I would say intentionally, but he's banking quite a few minerals and gas, so I don't know if it was intentional. I do think it was intentional to prioritize mutas and +1 even, but you know, that was a pretty big delay on this 2-2. Well, he does have a lot of mutas because of that. So not only +1 flyer attack, but also 11 mutas. That's a lot of, that's a big chunk of change right there. So it does make sense these 2-2 were, they were delayed. Yeah, it makes sense. It's 1,200 gas going to units and an upgrade. That's finally on the way. There will perhaps be a strong timing for Bleucheese to hit. He hasn't really cleaned up a lot of creep spread, as in killed a lot of creep tumors, but he has kept the queens busy, and Zanster is missing some to the top side where Bleucheese could even logically attack from, right? He's got his 3rd base here where he's both protecting and potentially attacking from. And honestly, I would not have minded him to expand even more forward. It gets a little weird as you get further and further into TVZ. Usually it's like that mid-game is more of the Terrans strongly pushing and rally pushing, and Zerg players are the ones I want to stay a little bit far away, right? They want to force them to take a long time to rally push, but the longer the game goes, the more it's suddenly the Terran has to worry about being overwhelmed and then immediately countered. But Bleucheese not going for anything I'm talking about anyways. He's setting up Widowmines defensively. He's going for a 4th base in the middle for a planetary. And he's not really pushing towards any point yet. So just doing these drops, which Zanster is kind of all over. Zanster's creep spread might not be the most amazing thing in the world, but it's doing what it should in regards to defending his bases now. And on top of that, he's had some really good Overlord and Ling coverage to kind of, you know, it's the same effect, right? Well, not, I mean, unfortunately, Ling's spotting don't give you plus speed on nearby them, but you get the idea. They're spotting for those drops, they're spotting for cheeky little run-bys, and so far Zanster hasn't taken extreme damage from them, so. Creep spread is where it needs to be. Up against what is finally the big push. It's got 2-2, but it didn't quite hit the timing I thought it was going to. That was like a 30 seconds difference, right? Doesn't get hit, so. Zanster's choice to go for the mute is working out quite well, as he has been able to keep a lot of them alive, if not all of them. He's up to 22. He's going to +1 Carapace on them as well. They haven't been used to clean up many drops, but when they are, they're very effective at it, and they've been used to help out against the front lines. Clean up Widow Mines, catch any units that are a little too far forward. There's a lot of things that suck about mass mutas, guys. Like, everyone knows what it looks like, what it feels like, I guess, to be up against them when they're balancing between your bases, but the other things is that they can take on even 2 medevac drops when they get to a certain number, and that just feels bad, man. But they also can help out on the defensive, right? They can actually take on those units that you send forward, which is usually Marauders, which can't shoot up, right? And they can take them out without having to even split, really. If you're really good with controlling them anyways. So, a Thor helps that. I think, like, specifically the Hor... Oh my god, the Hor. Oh no, I'm really judging the Thor here. The Thor, I think, is, like, now kind of just, like, that is its main job, because unfortunately, as far as destroying the mute account, or being held back, you know, defensively to guard a base, is not really... It's not really good at that anymore. Not that it was fantastic, because Magic Box is a thing, but it's, like, it's much worse nowadays, so... It seems like its best ability is to cover these spreads in case the mutas were on the defensive, but... They are no longer on the defensive. They go with a little run-by here of Ling Baneling. And that is very tough for Bleucheese to clean up. We also have 3-3 and Adrenoglands on the way for these run-bys in the future, when they're kind of evened up with the 3-3 of Bleucheese. So whether it's run-buying or actually taking on an army for his hatchery, like that's a strong layer-based army, quote-unquote, because those upgrades too really start to look impactful. But that base does go down. Zanster not quite with enough back at home. He is starting to rally everything that I guess he had spread around. But that does cost him a base and another base, actually. Now, Bleucheese is getting desperate. His production has been camped. This is looking like a game that eventually Zanster will win because Bleucheese is in a hurry to do damage. And when you're in a hurry to do damage on creep spread against Banelings, you kind of die. You just die. So that's exactly what's happening here. Bleucheese not even able to macro. This is probably the point where he's going to add on more production facilities, where he's supposed to be working off of, you know, 8 barracks, 2 factories, and a starport. Instead, he's working off of whatever he can produce in the main. He's losing reactors, he's losing barracks. Things are not looking good, so he's not even able to use the minerals he has, and that's not even that much. Even if he was using them, he'd still be bleeding them off piece by piece. And Zanster has won this game. Once again, getting to a comfortable mid-game, really. No big ol' hellbound attack into a very strong tank follow-up. And he also went into what looks to be a more comfortable composition for him, you know. He went into Ling Baneling Muta, and he was able to get 22 mutas without much to say about it. Oh, those Widow Mines are beautiful, but not enough. They do only, like, one-shot the one muta that they hit. The splash doesn't one-shot. And you need 4 Widow Mines to one-shot a clump of mutas, so... So close, yet so far. Zanster was expanding everywhere as the hatcheries went down. He didn't actually save all of his drones, but he saved certainly enough. It's still at 64 to 26 workers of Bleucheese, who has lost 3 bases, is now down to 1 orbital and 1 planetary. It is game over. Bleucheese refusing to accept defeats. He still has a loser's bracket to go through, but it's not working out so well. I think Zanster is just waiting for... Nope, he has it. Okay. Just waiting for a max out, I guess. He's got all his upgrades. He's literally on 3-3. So these ultras are gonna take some hits. They really, really are. GG. I guess there might have been hope in Bleucheese's mind that